Right. Turn on Do Not Disturb.
Okay, Do Not Disturb is now
Is
on.
Jason breaking for anybody?
Yeah.
Am I?
No. Wait, say something
You're
again.
breaking some.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing,
Yeah,
testing, 1,
kind
2,
of.
3.
Yep.
Should I do a speed test? Let's see.
I don't hear him breaking.
Hang on. Let's see. I have a 13 millisecond ping. $2.75 down. Buy. $23.1 megs up.
Nice.
I can try plugging the Mac in. Maybe. And see if that helps.
Yeah, it was just very intermittent. It's mostly stopped.
Okay, well, if it happens again, I'll try plugging the Mac in. Shouldn't matter, though. My computer was at 80% earlier. It's probably at like 76 or so now. Let's see. Oh, make that 73%. I really wish VoiceOver you would give me feedback when I would enable Do Not
VoiceOver?
Disturb.
With voiceover?
Hi, folks.
Stop making fun of the way I talk.
Spoonerisms.
It's very vood.
All right.
I hope you enjoy your nap, Cat, and I hope you don't wake up and like cause me to leave the meeting.
Talk about a cat nap.
Right? I'm assuming the mic's not picking him up, but he's like snoring on the bed. I just hear like.
Oh my gosh.
Well. All right, stream's up. We are recording. We are finally, I say, ready to go.
Right, the big old 160, everyone. As Michael rebuilds his setup over there.
Right, I'm moving my mic closer so I don't have to lean way up and have to,
Basically shout from all the way over here?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
Crap, now I
We're
gotta
a little
readjust mine.
too close now, I think.
Yeah.
Am I too close?
Yes.
Is this better?
You could just counteract it by turning your gain down a little.
How do I turn my gain down?
By twisting the knob. Unless it's all the way down.
Remember what?
Gosh, Michael Babcock.
Jason, you are like,
Is that any better?
No.
That got louder.
got some
Other way.
popping going on.
Yeah.
Is that any better?
More.
Yeah.
Better?
Oh,
No.
no, you're going the wrong way.
No.
It's counterclockwise to turn your gain down. Ooh, that's got some dirt in your...
Yeah, we know this. Is that
I
better?
didn't.
There you go. Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
That's almost all the way down.
Yeah. Well, because you can adjust its volume in Windows and or Mac OS as well as with the knob. I'm going to plug my Mac in. Hopefully that'll help with my breakups. There's not really anything else I can do.
There's a fly buzzing around my head.
Too bad your mic doesn't do stereo. You could freak me out mid-show. Hey, that happened to my friend Jeremy and I's first podcast back when we did we were doing the JL Applied Technologies show
Somebody
we
did
were
have
both
internet disturbance. Sorry.
at my friend Carl's house, and our friend Carl's house, I should say. And there's a fly, and I don't say anything. But we were recording in stereo because we were sitting at his kitchen table, and we were like, "Ooh, this is cool," and I just jump, and it totally gets recorded.
Oh, fun.
And when you jump, dude. You like really.
I know.
Yeah, we're just doing Google stuff today because I think it's a lot to talk about, and
Okay.
you know we did a lot last show. So,
Yeah, we did.
all right, is everybody ready?
Wait, 1 second. Taylor, what are you picking? What's your pick?
12 Pro.
Okay.
I'm getting a 12 Pro. I'm in the
I thought you
process of
had
upgrading
one.
it. No,
Really?
He's a tenor.
really.
Oh, enjoy your box phone.
I wanted to
that's
make sure we
totally
weren't picking the
different
same
design.
thing.
Goodness.
All right, y'all ready?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, wait,
All
right.
right.
Okay, here we go.
Let's do this thing.
Okay.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the iACast. All right, with me today we have our usuals, and we have a new person joining us. So, for our group today, we have Taylor Arndt,
Hello, everyone.
we have Jason Earls,
Hello, everyone.
we have Lauren Flinner,
Hello, everyone.
and we have Michael Babcock. Welcome,
Hello.
Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice to have a new voice on the show. So
Yeah,
really
definitely.
awesome.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of cool that you know we're episode 160 and you know new person, so that's really awesome.
Right.
So this show today is going to be completely dedicated to our usual news segment because I feel like we've got a lot of news to talk about, and Google had their Google I/O event this week, and just from their keynote speeches, we got a lot of information, and they did a lot of talks about accessibility. But I feel like we got a lot of information, but we also didn't get a lot of information. So what I want to do is go around and see what people thought was most interesting that we got from the show. And it doesn't matter if, you know, it's multiple, you know, if people think some of the same things were interesting, because, you know, not a lot affects everybody, because this was a developer conference, right? So it's very much a, you know, some things are cool to some people and not to others. So, Jason, what were your coolest thought? What do you think was coolest at I/O?
Google had an I/O event?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Didn't you know about
No, I'm joking. But I mean, it's been all over the technology news. But no, I think for me one of the neat things, it's sort of a toss up for me, because I don't remember what they call it, but they're doing a project that is, I guess it's going to allow you to basically have 3D video calls, from what it sounds like. So I guess it creates sort of like a 3D hologram, I guess, of a person when you do video calls. I thought that was interesting. I thought it was interesting the ability for you to take a picture of, say, you know, a patch of skin. You might have bumps or something on it, and your phone will be able to, through machine learning, try to tell you what may be going on with your with that particular patch of skin, whether you have a
Oh, I
medical
didn't know
issue or not.
that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, and I don't know if what was the language processing model, right? That they're doing Lambda for the Google Assistant and giving it that new voice that they had demoed.
The breathing thing.
Yeah, the breathing thing. I mean, yes, okay. You could argue that Apple's had it for a long time with the Alex voice, but none of the virtual assistants from A Lady to Google Assistant, none of them breathe. So it's definitely interesting. So
So, Taylor, was there anything from the event that you found interesting?
I mean, I have to kind of agree with Jason. Like I said, that skin thing. I mean, just the machine learning in general. Google is definitely uh, excelling in those areas. I just set mine off, so. But yeah, no, I really think that the machine learning, all the other stuff that they're doing is really awesome. And like I said, it feels like, yes, we did get a lot of information, but again, it kind of doesn't, like we were saying earlier. So yeah, I kind
right.
of agree with Jason.
And I actually forgot too. One of the things I wanted to mention that I thought was interesting too is the merging of Tizen OS into Wear OS.
Yep. Lauren, what about you? What did anything stand out to you that you find interesting for the Google side of things?
Well, everyone kind of stole it. I mean, I think it's really cool. I mean, the skin diagnostic thing, the 3D calling. I mean, it's all great. I think it's all definitely noteworthy. Yeah.
So, Michael, what about you? What did you find interesting?
So, first of all, the cool thing about Google I/O that Jason was thinking of is called Project Starline, which I think right there just has an awesome name.
I wanted to call it like Starlight, and I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right.
Right, yeah. But Starline, and I think that's going to be an interesting thing that they end up doing. We'll see where it goes. The Project Lambda, I think is how you pronounce that, intrigued me. Not so much for the breathing of the assistant, but more for the fact that you can have natural conversation with assistant. Because I don't know how many times I have asked Google Assistant or A Lady to do something, and she says, I'm sorry, I don't understand that. We kind of witnessed that before we went live shortly, even though it wasn't related to that. So that's pretty cool. And then the other thing that I'm intrigued to see, I'm nervous about it when it comes to accessibility, but I'm intrigued to see how they implement accessibility with the new Google Workspace features to be able to have one place to go to plan out a project and make that project come to fruition. So those are the things that I'm kind of excited about. What about you, Michael? What intrigues you?
So, I guess for me, all of it, everything that we've heard about Google, the one thing about Google is machine learning is their bread and butter, right? That search and machine learning, that's what they do. They have TensorFlow, they have Tesseract, they have all these other, ways of recognizing objects and text and things like that. And so you would think that, they would be utilizing that a lot more, and they are. But, it's all reliant on the cloud. And so one of the things that I'm very interested in is what they're doing with Android and Android 12. We've gone over all these other things, but we haven't really talked about Android 12. And the public beta is now live, and they've added new phones. I believe some OnePlus phones now have it. You can install the beta on, and I believe the brand, and I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation. I believe it's Xiaomi. A Chinese brand, I believe, is now being allowed to use the Android 12 beta program. So that's pretty exciting, and it's very interesting that we're not seeing that on Samsung. But I think it's because of how much Samsung really, changes the experience for Android. So
I kind of miss the Play edition of their smartphones.
Yeah, those were nice. But it's interesting that, we're looking at a combination of Tizen OS and Wear OS into one product for those watches, because it might mean that Samsung may, push back more to the stock Android side for their phones, maybe. So, I don't know. It's very interesting, and Android 12 has a new redesign as far as look and feel, And to me, it just seems snappier. It's fast. It just they have changed magnification gestures. I have meant to go and check that out before the podcast, but I didn't really have the time. So I've been meaning to check that out. And there are, from what I understand, TalkBack, it really hasn't changed much at this point.
No, not really. Honestly, like from a talkback standpoint, and maybe it's just me. I mean, it's no secret that my Pixel is not my primary device. But when I've used it, it hasn't really felt any more responsive or any less responsive than when I was running Android 11. So.
That's interesting. I will probably go install the beta on my Pixel 3 XL because I just want to know what that experience is like. But you're right. The big TalkBack updates came in the fall of last year, so I'm intrigued to see what type of TalkBack updates we'll see with the release of Android 12 to the public and with this combination of Tizen and Wear OS. I'm curious if there will finally be an accessible wearable option for TalkBack users.
Right. And more than that, I mean, it'll make Wear OS hopefully even more able to compete with the Apple Watch in general. Because, I mean, honestly, in the smartwatch space, Apple's kind of killing it right now.
Well, and after the announcements they made this week, they're going to be just destroying it.
That is so true. The Apple Watch is what brought me back from Android after 18 months on Android to iOS. It's one of the biggest reasons. You're right. After those announcements this week, I think accessibility on the Apple Watch is...
Oh, with the assistive touch stuff and everything?
The new assistive touch. Talk about that, Jason, because I'm sure you've read all about it. I know you read all the articles and things.
Oh my god, I'm not the only fanboy on the show. But no, so I gather it's going to use... So Apple Watch is going to be able to be controlled with assistive touch based on what Apple said in the announcement. It's going to use things like the I think it's supposed to use things like the heart rate sensor. I almost called it the hardware sensor. And the
well, it is a hardware sensor, but for
well,
hardware,
yes, but but the accelerometer, I think it's supposed to be able to use. It's supposed to be able to use that too. You'll be able to control the Apple Watch with different finger pinching gestures and clenching of the fist, I guess, without having to actually touch the Apple Watch display. So that seems like it's going to be a really great feature for people that rely on assistive touch.
Yeah, that's really neat. I mean, the future of that, the possibilities it'll open up for people, who need it. It's great.
Well, and not just that, and we'll get back to Google in just a second, but imagine the possibility of using your phone or using your watch during a workout. And if you're low vision or have no vision and you need to stop the workout or check the stats or things like that, if you could just do that while you're on a treadmill without having to use both hands to work on your watch or do things like that, imagine the possibilities there. And that's why
I didn't think about that.
That's why I'm saying, Apple is just going to be destroying everybody in the wearable market right now with those new assistive touch features.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I actually thought of something like that too, but at first I dismissed it because I was like, well, if you're trying to check stats during workouts or whatever, what if it misinterprets your hand motions as attempting to do assistive touch? But Apple is generally very good about being able to determine that, so that type of thing. I actually have turned on fall. I don't know if it's on right now. I don't remember, but I had fall detection on before, and I've never had a false positive. So
yeah, I've had it on before, and I've only once, had a false positive, but it's worth it. I mean, they do some amazing work.
Yeah, and I'm just glad to see. I really hope that merging these two OSs together, Tizen, however you pronounce it. I assume it's Tizen.
Yeah.
But Tizen and Wear OS together, if they get if that merger becomes the best of both of those operating systems, I really, for the sake of both Android Wear relevance and improving, and also to give, help the Apple Watch improve as Android Wear becomes better competition for it. I really hope this works in Google's favor.
So, what would it take? This goes for all of us because we're all, we some of us use Google and Apple. But I'm kind of curious, Michael, what would it take for Google to do for you to just say, I've had it, I'm not going to use Apple anymore. I'm just going to go to Google because they've just done so much. What would it take?
That's a simple question. It's the same thing that I've been saying since the beginning. If I could copy and paste from anywhere in the operating system with TalkBack, then I would gladly jump over to Android, mainly because it gives me the flexibility that I have. I think we've gotten, for the most part, and I mean, so I guess let me take that back. If I could copy and paste anywhere in the operating system and web views were reliable, then I would definitely jump back over, because those are the two primary reasons with my Apple Watch as well that I switched back over, is I got tired of having to do convoluted ways of copying and pasting from Android different elements on a web page or something. Now, I will say, the reason that it would make me switch over or drop Apple is because I've also found instances where I can't copy or select text in iOS on different pages or different views as well. So if Android could get that down, I think then I would be a happy camper.
And I have to agree, visually even, selecting text on iOS is cumbersome. I should be able to double tap at the beginning place that I want to start selecting and then drag down to where I want to stop selecting and then grab the handles and drag. That should be a thing, but it's not always that easy. And on Android, it really just is. So,
especially with Zoom. It can be a really big hassle on iOS with Zoom, trying to select text.
I actually prefer selecting text with VoiceOver in iOS because you've got two ways to select text. You've got, the rotor method where you turn the rotor to text selection, and then you can choose. I think you flick up and flick down to tell VoiceOver what to select by, and then you can flick right to select and left to stop selecting.
Yep.
But I tend to use a lot of the time the two-finger pinch method. So I'll set my granularity. And I will pinch my fingers out to select by the chosen granularity. In some ways, I find that faster. And I definitely agree with you, Michael Babcock, about web views. I mean, they've gotten better, but there's still some times where I'll be reading and I have to stop reading for a second, and I go to touch the screen, and TalkBack just doesn't read any of the web content, and I'll try to touch, because in iOS I could touch my finger about where I stopped. I might get a line or two off, but I can touch, and that's another thing. I can literally drag my finger around the screen on a line-by-line basis, and I can fairly quickly get to reading where I left off, and I find it much harder to do in Android.
So is there any particular, one of the things, and I'll preface this question with this commentary that, one of the things, they're talking about Android 12 now, but most phones are barely running Android 11. So like my favorite Android phone, the Surface Duo, I don't even know if it's running 11. So, that's a big deal. Is that kind of a deal breaker for you guys that you cannot get the latest version of Android on all the different phones out there except for like the Pixels?
Oh yeah.
I think for me it is too, but I'm also a very heavy iOS user. But at the same time, I understand, like, there's some advantages to that. I was reading an article that was talking about this too, and they're like, if you think about it, one of the disadvantages of, or rather one of the advantages of not necessarily getting the latest version of Android thrust upon you as soon as it's available is stability. You know, if the version of Android that you're running is very stable, you can still get upgrades to features and improvements without necessarily losing some of the stability you get from the particular version you're running. Whereas something like iOS, you know, you've got 14, you install, say, 14 point, I don't know, 5.1, and then, I don't know, I'm just making this up, but your Wi-Fi stops working or whatever. So I think for me, I would rather have the newest version of the operating system, but I also understand both sides of the other side of the argument. So,
What's your take on it, Michael? How do you feel on this?
I will definitely share my thoughts. I was waiting for one of the other two young ladies to jump in, but I will jump in here. So the thing is I don't care if the devices I'm not using don't get the latest, and that may very well be very selfish, but to me, I'm going to do what I can do to get a device from a manufacturer, and typically it's going to be Google, that will support the latest version of Android, and that I can almost guarantee that will be the case. And then I think about some of these other devices out there that don't support the latest version of Android, or going back to Jason's example, I believe this is the case, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but let's say 12 comes out and is live on the Pixel, and all of a sudden you have a Wi-Fi issue. I believe you can go back to 11, whereas with iOS, you can only go back as long as Apple will let you once you've upgraded.
yes, I think you can. Even if you had to use the Flash tool, I think you could go back.
You may have to erase your data, but yeah, I don't
Right.
think I think they do some protection-based things, but I don't think they sign their releases the same way that Apple does.
I agree with Michael B. I mean, because like I said, the other thing is that, like, you want to get the devices, like I said, that are up to date. And yeah, I will get the device that will be, from the manufacturer, because chances are they'll be running stock Android, and usually stock Android is more accessible than something like Samsung or other, manufacturers where they modify the heck out of the Android experience.
I'm totally pro Pixel.
So, Lauren, what's your take on this? Would you say you've heard that the Samsung was the easier one to use, but that stock Android has more accessibility possibly and more system updates. How would you approach that?
Yeah, I think I would honestly go with more accessibility. I think, overall, that's the most important thing to me. Even if it is a lower version or less stable or whatever the case is. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing about Samsung is they're getting a lot better, but there's still a lot of other brands out there that make changes to the OS, and that's why, if people don't know that watch the show, that's why Android doesn't get updated as much. As there's three levels of Android development. So Google comes out with Android 12 later this year. So then the carriers do their thing to it. Oh no, wait.
I think it's the manufacturers and
the
then
manufacturers get a hold of it. They make their changes, and then the carriers go in and they make their changes. So you're looking at 6 months to a year of development after Google does their things to it, and then they upload it to their update store so that Samsung and other devices can get those updates. So it's kind of a you kind of are looking at, if you get a device that Google does stock Android with, you're making sure that you get the most up-to-date device, because when Android 12 comes out, it comes out. You're not having to wait for, I don't remember the name of the launcher for Samsung anymore. It used to be TouchWiz, but it's not anymore.
Isn't it One UI or something like that now?
Something like that, yeah. So you don't have to wait for them to update that. So,
and I guess you could also argue too that with an Android device, if it's not running a version of Android you want, okay, fine, root it. and install a ROM, but that's I would classify that as something that would be a bit more advanced that a lot of people may not want to deal with. And so
The thing with Android, though, that I think all of us, both on here and listening, need to keep in mind is yes, we are concerned about getting a device that's supported by a manufacturer that will support the latest Android, or we have our thoughts on that, and I suspect that everyone else here has experienced this, but sometimes you might have a family member who reaches out to you and says, "Hey, what phone should I get? I don't want an iPhone." So having that knowledge of what's going to support the latest operating system is important for any tech person, I think, who might be supporting their family or friends.
when you've also got
Go ahead.
you've also got people like my girlfriend. She has the Galaxy S. What does she have? The S21, I think. And she's not going to get Android 12 right away. I do believe she will get it. But she's not going to be getting it right away. And she's not a heavy updater. I mean, from a security standpoint, everybody's like update, update, update. But, from her standpoint, it's if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Or rather, if it ain't broke, don't update it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna stop and say something, and this is quite, and I don't know if anybody else has thought of this, or if I'm the last one on the train to figure this out. I think I finally figured out why they called the S20.
What's that?
Because they went from the S10, I believe, to the S20. Makes perfect sense now that I think about it. 2020.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yep.
And now the S21, 2021.
Yep,
Never
that-
thought about it until just now.
Maybe.
I bet you that's why they did it, because there's no reason to go from S10 to S20. I mean, they could have gone to S11, S12, but they went to S20. So yeah, I think that's kind of probably why they did that.
I mean, it does make sense.
So yeah, and here's the thing, like you were saying, Jason, I would honestly recommend Samsung to a lot of people, because even if it doesn't get the latest versions, a lot of people don't care. They'll still get security updates, and so that's important. But they're going to get the experience they're looking for with the most ease of use, and that visually, that's one of the things. If a person's a techie, I'll always tell them Google Pixel, or if they're slightly techie. But if they're just a regular user, I'll tell them, check out the Samsung stuff. They've got a lot of really good options. If the person's a totally sighted user, and to be fair, they have fixed a lot of their screen reader based problems. It doesn't tell you have to have accessibility features turned off to use these features on a lot of their stuff now, from what I've been told.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because the last time I had to use a Samsung device at work when I had my old job, yeah, kind of a nightmare.
I mean,
Go ahead, Lauren.
I was a Samsung user for 2 years, and then I switched back to the iPhone, and it was great for a while, and then they broke it, and then they fixed it again, and I definitely would go back at least to just check it out, but they've got a long way to go still, but they're working on it.
I remember having an S8, and I had magnification gestures turned on, and I tried to use their S Pay or whatever they call it for paying for things like Apple Pay, and it really said, and I'm not kidding, you must turn off accessibility features to use Samsung S Pay.
I remember that. It was very frustrating.
And didn't they make you turn off accessibility features as well to use their tap to wake feature?
The
Or
always on
raise to wake
display.
feature, always, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So, Michael, I find it interesting you would recommend a Samsung device to a sighted user, because my son ended up in he's younger, but he has a phone because he travels, and so that's the primary reason why he has one. But he ended up with a 3A XL, and that is running him pretty well still for the things he's doing. So I'm wondering if maybe his next phone should be a Samsung, or if I can convert him to the dark side. I mean, Apple. And the cool thing about it is his sister uses iOS, his mom uses iOS, his stepdad uses Android, and I'm on iOS. And, you know, he can communicate with all of us in the video way that he prefers to communicate. That's a whole nother topic, how kids nowadays don't want to use phones. They want to talk to you on video because they can. But he can do that because of cross-platform apps, and I think that's very helpful.
What do you guys use, like Duo?
Yeah, we're using Duo to chat, and it's accessible on both platforms, which is even better.
The reason why I say, Samsung's a good option is because visually it's at least it used to be very similar visually to an iPhone.
Yes.
In fact, there were lawsuits when Samsung came out with their S line of phones because they looked very much like iPhones. They had to change them up a bit, but I think Android actually was the first to come out. I could be wrong. I don't remember if it was Android or the iPhone 10 that came out with the no home button, all soft buttons. I think it was actually Android.
It was Android because my Nexus 4 had all soft buttons that were made with the software rather than the capacitive soft buttons some of the Samsungs had.
Yeah. And, so it's interesting, seeing the differences. But, a lot of people really like the Samsung phones just because of the ease of use compared to, and they don't really, a lot of people don't care that it uses Android. They're like, I got my phone. It does what I need it to do. I don't need it to have new bells and whistles.
Yeah.
I'll wait to get that once I get my new phone. And that's the way a lot of Android users think.
I mean, the interface is all, that's what people get it for, not the OS.
Right, the customization of the interface.
Exactly, yes, thank you.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yep.
Now, let me state for the record, I have never used a Samsung phone. I almost said a device, but we had a Samsung TV. So I've never used a Samsung phone. The closest I have come to is that PWA I shared with you, Michael. That's the closest that I have used a Samsung device.
Mm-hmm.
I will say one of the things that I really would like Google to address, and I don't know how the Samsung keyboard is, but I feel like typing on my Pixel is an extremely slow process compared to my iPhone. It's not pleasant. Like
they don't have as, I mean, they've gotten better, but it's not. It used to be worse, guys. It used to be a lot worse. The interesting thing is with Google, you can completely replace the keyboard. Unlike iOS, you can change how the keyboard looks through third-party keyboards, but with Android, you can completely replace all of these things.
Right, and now that you have the TalkBack Braille keyboard available, it makes things easier in some cases in that aspect. But sometimes I don't want to switch to the other keyboards. I just want to type my stuff and be done with it. But it's slow.
One of the things that we didn't talk about, switching gears a little bit, is apparently they've also made a lot of changes to search. They're doing a lot with, they're changing how search is going to work. And I don't know what that looks like, but I'm sure for us website design people, that's going to be a big thing. So I'm going to be very interested to see what they do there. And it's very interesting because there was talk that they were going to release their new in-house chip for their Pixel devices at this conference, at this event. I don't remember the name of the chip, but they were supposed to come out with something like the Apple Silicon chip, but made by Google, and we have not seen that. So it's very interesting that that was announced or was not announced.
Yeah, because I really want to see what that chip can do. I really do. I from a purely what can it do, I'm a tech nerd standpoint, I want to see this thing, or at least see what others have been able to do with this thing. Did you guys see the stuff about Google Assistant?
Which part?
So I guess they are working on allowing you to hold the power button of your phone to activate Google Assistant. I've been reading one of the things that you may be able to do eventually is use Google Assistant to power your device off as well, using your voice.
That's good.
Interesting. Yeah, that's that could be very useful. Especially if it like freezes up on you. You can just tell it to power off.
Well,
Like my
if it
phone did
responds when it's frozen, but yeah.
Right, yeah. Like my phone did earlier this week, it totally like froze up.
Well, the thing about that is, though, the thing about Linux and Mac OS and iOS is they're Unix-based operating systems. So if one process freezes, it doesn't mean the whole operating system freezes. So you may have more of a chance if you can get the speech services to activate that you can get it to power down.
Right.
Yeah, but it would kind of be nice being able to say, hey, assistant, power off, or something along those lines, instead of having to navigate through a whole menu, especially when you're using TalkBack and it thinks you're trying to do something like adjust your speech rate because it didn't like the way you touched your screen.
Yep. All right. Do you guys have any final comments about Google I/O? I personally just want to say first, before we get to that, as my comment, I just feel like we didn't, Apple, it's usually kind of earth-shattering. It's like, wow, this is pretty fantastic stuff. And I feel like this is all great, but it's not like, Google didn't, apparently I don't think Google had a Google I/O last year.
No.
So I feel like for not having one, this is just kind of meh.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was some cool stuff, but what do y'all got? What do y'all think for your final comments today?
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, I don't want to say it wasn't great. I mean, it was kind of meh. It wasn't awesome. It wasn't like there's so many. Like I said, it wasn't like what Apple would do, in a sense, like for the WWDC, where it's like a lot of stuff, and it's like, especially again since it hasn't happened in 2 years, like we would expect something fantastic, and it just did not meet that expectation.
Yeah, I think the new designs, which we didn't talk about much, I guess Google's doing some work to make widgets more consistent, giving them like rounded corners and things.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that is great. I'm not going to say it's not, because it is. It's I'm sure for somebody who uses Android more regularly than I do, it's an extremely welcome improvement and stuff, but it was still just kind of like meh. And so, I feel like I'm more excited about this rumored Pixel, not Pixel, the rumored Google custom built chip for the Pixels than the announcements at I/O. Although being able to talk with a more natural conversation flow into Google Assistant would be nice. So I guess there's that as well. But yeah, it's kind of meh. But I also kind of feel like that's okay in some respects, because I mean, if you consider everything that did happen with the pandemic and everything, I almost feel like kind of a meh event is sort of okay, even if Apple's event was not, or events are not meh.
I think that, yeah, it is a little meh, as Jason keeps saying. But I also feel like they could have had a bit more of a punchline, like, oh, look at this huge new thing that we're doing, and by the way, we have all these sub features or other things that we're rolling out. It would have been kind of cool to see something a little bit more. On the other hand, though, I do think that a lot of these more specific things, these areas that they are building up, needed to be worked on in the first place. So, it doesn't matter when they do it. I'm just glad that they are making improvements. So,
and I'm a little disappointed. No one was excited that you can talk to a paper airplane.
Or Pluto.
Right. No, but seriously though, the thing I agree. the event was very underwhelming. The thing with Google, though, as we all see, is when Apple comes to the plate and brings us WWDC, we can expect that the changes that they're making or the announcements that they're making are likely going to be available by the end of the week for the beta or in the fall for the actual stable version of the next iOS version. With Google, when they make announcements, it's you could see that by the end of the year, maybe next year or the year after, which has its own underwhelming aspects of it too. But look at Duplex; they announced it and then released it 8 months, 10 months later in select markets. So I'm intrigued to see what comes of this event, even though it was underwhelming.
I want to know who's using Duplex actually. 'Cause
I
feel
have
like I haven't
used
even heard
Duplex.
anything about it lately.
I have used it, but only 2 restaurants in our area support reservations. But yeah, I have used it. But I think the usability will be increased when Google rolls out this better natural language processing for more than just making restaurant reservations. And so that's why I'm intrigued to see where it goes.
I think it should pull a Steve Jobs and call Starbucks and be like, "Yeah, I'd like 100,000 lattes, please."
Well, like I said, I think the most I'm excited about is Android 12 and how things are going to look and feel with the new OS. Like you were talking about, Jason, with the new look, the new Material UI stuff that are making changes to. Really excited about that. I haven't played with it as much as I'd like. I have the beta on my phone, but it's just I haven't read anywhere if they've changed, how easy it is to program for Android or if they've changed things. So until I see those kind of improvements to say I can program for Android like I can program Swift UI on iOS and Mac, meh.
The word of the day.
Meh.
Yeah, pretty much. That's like
Yep.
the shortest episode title ever.
Meh.
No, I'm not actually suggesting that'd be the title of the show, but
Google Ice, meh, oh.
that's the thing, though. Like, I'm not, from a talkback perspective, I'm not really seeing a lot new, and I think that's also part of why I'm kind of meh, because we're not going to notice. We're not going to notice the rounded corners and stuff in the design. Those of us who have no vision, so.
And the thing for me is they've changed how you use magnification gestures, which is great. But I kind of wish I had a way of on my Pixel 4, I could swipe up from the bottom to turn on the service and then tap to zoom in. Great, that's completely gone now. So to magnify my phone, I'm having to use TalkBack to figure out how to do it, because there's no easy way to figure that out at this point. So that's kind of a problem. And the text size is a bit smaller than iOS, so I'm having to figure that out. So I feel like when they make big changes like that, they kind of need to. I feel like it needs to be advertised like, look, this is how you do this now, because these things are totally different. So. But that's my 2 cents on these things. And so I think we've had a good discussion on all these topics today. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show. But before we go, Jason, what is your pick of the week and where can people find you online?
So my pick for the week is actually a specific feature of my, not Google, but rather Apple, obviously, MacBook Pro. And my pick is the Touch Bar. And before all of the boos happen and everybody's like, well, Apple's moving away from the Touch Bar. Well, okay, that's fine. We don't know that for sure, but it does appear that that's going to be the case, but it's still relevant for the amount of time that I have this computer in my possession. So, why am I picking the Touch Bar? Because after all the time I've owned this machine, I just now started customizing the touch bar and am realizing that there are some things about it I like, even though I would prefer physical function keys. I don't tend to use Launchpad. I don't tend to use, what's that other thing? Mission Control. And so I can take them off my touch bar and replace them with things I do use, like a notification center button. I think the layout of my touch bar now is my display brightness, spotlight, notification center, do not disturb. I love the fact that I have a do not disturb toggle, although I wish VoiceOver would give me... Yeah, I heard it. I said VoiceOver. I know.
First outtake.
Yep. VoiceOver. VOISH over.
How are you going to spell that in the outtake name?
VOISH over. VoiceOver.
Sure.
Oh, man.
And for the audience's understanding, that has happened twice today.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. It did happen another time. Hey, I am running on not a lot of sleep, okay? I'm powered by coffee right now. So,
Powered by Starbucks.
Powered by coffee.
yeah, and I don't mean coffee like Intel, but really coffee. Anyway, let's see. I feel like I ran that here. I'm gonna. I feel like I ran that together. I'm not entirely sure how to redo this.
You were talking about the do not disturb button, if that helps.
Yeah, but I don't know if I left myself enough space to start that over. I know what I'll do. I'll start over my touch bar layout, and I'll fix it there. There we go. VoiceOver. All right. 3, 2, 1. So my touch bar layout is display brightness down, display brightness up, spotlight. I believe notification center is next, and then do not disturb. My media buttons, my volume mute up and down. And these are all things that I use. Now, I do wish that VoiceOver would give me feedback when I would toggle the do not disturb button. It just says toggle do not disturb, but doesn't say whether it's highlighted when you tap it. I mean, I can check it in the menu bar and stuff, but in customizing, it's kind of a weird process with VoiceOver.
It's actually easier with VoiceOver than it is without.
Yeah, because unless anybody knows a better way to do it, I was flicking with VoiceOver, choosing the things that I wanted to remove from the touch bar because I can't seem to figure out how to do it using the keyboard. And then looking at the buttons inside the thing at the bottom, and then tapping on them to add them to the touch bar. So if anybody knows of a easier way to do that, please email us and let us know, because I would love to know.
And that drag and drop does not work very well with Zoom enabled. So
No, it does not.
Yeah, so that is my pick. And as far as where people can find me, you can find me producing content for iAccessibility. You can email me at jason@iaccessibility.net. You can follow me on Twitter at JDE, that's Juliet Delta Echo 91. And if you happen to run into me on Clubhouse, feel free to say hi.
all right. And Taylor, what is your pick for this week, and where can people find you online?
Cut. I feel like Taylor's pick might be the internet. She did drop like twice.
Oh, really? Hang on.
It said that that had left the meeting while I was speaking.
Ew.
So she
So
might be
she's
waiting to
back.
get let back in.
No, it says she's back. There you
Okay,
are.
I appear to
you
have
are.
internet issues at the current second.
We can hear you now.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it keeps disconnecting, so I'm not sure what's happening.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we're cut, so when you're ready to go ahead and
Oh, I'm
uncut and count in and
All right.
start.
All right, so, we're cut because I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right,
We're ready for
So-
your
My class
pick.
for your pick.
And so
Okay.
count in.
3, 2, 1. So my pick this week is the iPhone 12 Pro, which I'm currently in the process, before I just lost internet just a second ago. I'm in the process of actually ordering it. So I really need a new phone. I had a 10R and it was kind of getting ready to take a dump. And because I need my phone for both personal and business use, it's imperative that it works. So I figured that I needed to upgrade the phone, and I didn't really want to wait till the 13 because obviously they'd be super expensive, and I don't know. So that's kind of why I just wanted to go with that. Plus, like I said, everybody else in the family was upgrading, and Sprint gave us a huge deal, or Sprint Mobile, T-Mobile, whatever you want to call
Sprint
them.
Mobile. T-Sprint.
Whatever you want to call them this week. So that's kind of why we did that. Everybody upgraded the phone at the same time. In terms of where you can find me online, you can find me all over the web. So you can find me producing content for iAccessibility. You can email me, taylor@iaccessibility.net. You can find me on Twitter, Taylor_Arnt22. You can find me on Clubhouse. And if you do, please say hi. I'm all over. And you can find my YouTube channel, Taylor's Tech Talks. And you can visit my website, taylorarnt.com.
So, out of curiosity, what color phone are you getting?
I haven't decided that yet. What color should I get?
Purple.
Pacific blue.
Purple.
Well, they don't have purple in the pros.
Oh, dang.
Oh, is it just the 12?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yep, just the 12. So they have the gold looks really nice. The sides of it actually have a very nice stainless steel gold color. So it's one of the only gold phones I'd recommend on the pros. The white and silver look really nice, and the blue looks really nice.
Okay.
I'm just kind of meh about the space gray. It's just kind of blah. So
Yeah. Okay, yeah, well,
the three others are very nice looking phones.
yeah, I'm going to figure that out. Again, I have to start my order again because I lost internet, so...
Hey, at least they don't charge you for deciding on a color.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
All right. Lauren, what is your pick for the week? Actually, no. Let me backtrack. Michael, what is your pick for the week, and where can people find you online?
Okay, so my pick for the week is a tool on Windows called Auto Hotkey, and I just went down the rabbit hole of reading the documentation. I'm excited to get this up and running, mainly because I've been a longtime TextExpander user, and my experiences with TextExpander on the Mac, my experiences with TextExpander on Windows have been let's add the word of the day here. Meh. Actually, quite disappointing. But and then on Windows or on the Mac, it's been about the same with some changes that they made. And text 3, 2, 1. An auto hotkey is a great tool that you can use. You do have to write out the text that you want to fill in, but you also have more flexibility of being able to set their demo as using Control J. Right now, Control J will automatically fill my email in. I know it makes zero sense, but I'm one of those nerds who they tell you, here's how you do this, write hello world. And I say, well, the problem I need to solve is to fill in my email address quickly, so I'm not going to write hello world. I'm going to write in my email address and hope that works. So that's why that's set up, and it's a great tool to automate your work on Windows. So Auto Hotkey, it is free, and there's plenty of documentation out there on the web. How people can find me is my website, mainly yourownpay.com, yourownpay.com. Apparently guesting on is guesting a word on iAccessibility, the iACast, and on Twitter at Payown, Payown, and periodically on Clubhouse.
All right. Lauren, what is your pick for this week, and where can people find you online?
My pick is Canva. It is a graphic design type tool. You can make logos, you can make social media banners, you can make color palettes, what else? Facebook banners, YouTube things. And the reason I like it is because as someone with a visual impairment, the user interface is great. It's got a lot of contrast. It's pretty simple to use. They have a free version, and then they also have a paid plan. But really, for everything that I need to do, the free plan is perfect. one thing that I really like about Canva is the fact that I can take color palettes from Canva and use it on websites or apps or whatever I need it for, because I'm not that great with color. So yeah, that's my pick for this week. And where people can find me, you can find me producing content for iAccessibility. You can find me on Twitter at LaurenFlenner10. You can find me on Instagram, LaurenFlenner10. And you can email me at laurenflenner@iaccessibility.net.
All right. My pick for this week is I'm gonna do what Taylor did and pick something I don't have just yet. I am about to be ordering a new, I believe it's going to be the Toshiba 32-inch Amazon Fire TV edition television. So I need a new bedroom TV, and I'm pretty excited about this. So I'm going to be putting in that order this week. So a new TV will be in my near future. So I'm really excited about this. Eventually, I'm going to get the new Apple TV 4K, put that in my living room, and move my other one to the bedroom. And I'm also going to have to I'm going to get 2 new Siri remotes. So I'm really excited about that. So updates all around. So pretty excited. As for where people can find me, you can find me producing content for iAccessibility. You can email me at Mike Doise, that's MikeDoise at iAccessibility.net. You can find me on Twitter as Mike Doise. You can find me all over the web. Just search for Michael Doise on Facebook and other places. I'm under Michael Doise on Clubhouse. And, I want to tell a little story before we wrap up today, and it's kind of fun. So, back whenever I was very young, in like 1994 or around there, I heard about this thing called Hotmail, and I'm like, you know what? I'll just, get my first email account whenever I was like 11. So I did that, and I got it at the School for the Blind and kept it for a while, and so I said, you know what? I wonder if I remember the password to log back into that account. And I actually was able to log in to that account a few weeks ago. And so, I regained my first ever email address since 1994. It's now, moved over to an Outlook.com address. So it's like MikeDoise at Outlook.com. But you could still use the Hotmail address. So it's man, it's one of the earliest emails using, HTML pages. And so it's kind of neat just being able to revive such a thing. So I figured I'd share that before we wrapped up today, because it's kind of a fun, it's like, and before we go, what is your oldest email addresses? Jason?
Sorry, our cat is coughing and it was distracting me. He does that from time to time. We have to give him shots and stuff, and we're taking him to the vet. But anyway, my oldest email account, I think, would actually be a Hotmail account back in 2007, which is relatively new, I guess. But yeah, I think it was that in Hotmail.
Okay, Michael, what about you? What you don't have to give out your account, but what is the first email address you've ever had?
The first one I've ever had would have been in 2000, no, probably 99. Yep. Yeah, it was our local ISP that we had, and I got an email from them, and it would have been in 1999. It was Mauki, Mouki, at i-5connect.com, which you can email that all day long. I don't even think it'll go through. But for those who didn't know, Mauki, Mouki, is blind turtle in Japanese.
Oh, wow. Interesting. And Lauren, what about you?
Oh boy. My my first email was a Gmail. I'm boring. And then I think before that, my mom and I had a joint account when I was, younger. But yeah, I don't have any fun ones.
I would have laughed if you had said, my first email account was a Gmail account. I just made it 5 minutes ago.
No.
Which, you have an Apple ID, so obviously, but
I remember when Gmail was in beta, and you had to be invited.
Yeah, that was like the cool thing. If you could get someone to send you an invitation, man.
Right.
Hey, I think we're here again. What's that thing called? Oh, Clubhouse.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Taylor, what about you? What was your first email, and how long ago was it?
I had a Hotmail account that actually got hacked. So I actually don't even have access anymore because when I was like, again, I had to make it when I was 10 because I had to deal with some stuff with the state and that required me to have an email address. But it got hacked. So Taylor Arndt something at hotmail.com. But it was so hacked basically that it was just wasn't able to work.
Yeah.
So I don't have access because it got hacked big time.
But it's just kind of neat just to look back and see what your old.
And I don't even know how long ago it was.
Yeah.
So here's a question, Michael. Do you have any old spam from 1994 hanging out here?
You know what? You know what? I will report back on that on a different podcast because I'm kind of curious now. I'm kind of curious what the first email in that inbox is at this point.
Right.
That's really interesting. I want to go back and find out now. What, like, how far back does that email go? So, really interesting stuff. So I will.
They probably purged it when they switched over to Outlook. So I'm interested to hear what it is now.
Yeah, I will bring this up on the next episode of the iACast. So.
Yeah, be like, open up this email and you'll get a free 30-minute session with America Online.
That's awesome. You've got mail. All right, we are going to go ahead and wrap up this episode, but I want to thank everybody for being here. Michael, thanks for being on the show. It was an awesome show, having you. Awesome time having you here on your first episode. So we hope you come back. Hopefully we didn't scare you off. So
I was just hoping I didn't dominate the conversation. I apparently have a problem with that.
No, you're fine. Totally great. So I want to thank everybody for being here, and we will be back in 2 weeks with another episode of the iACast. So thank you so much, everybody, and have a great day. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Woo!
Alrighty.
160.
That was fun.
It was.
Recording stop.
Until Ship showed up.